Right now, on some pitch somewhere in the world, a football match is being played. 22 players, same ball, same 90 minutes. To someone who has never been taught how to watch it, that is all it looks like. Bodies moving, a ball rolling, a goal happening for reasons nobody bothers to explain. But what is actually happening on that pitch is one of the most carefully engineered systems of teamwork in sport. Every player out there is locked into an invisible structure built up over more than a century. Each one has a zone, a job, a reason for every run they make and every run they deliberately do not make. Most people who say they do not understand football are not missing intelligence, they are missing the map. This is every position on a football pitch, what each one is actually responsible for, and how the modern game has twisted almost all of them into something the previous generation would barely recognize. 11 players per side, 4 broad layers, goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, forwards. That sounds tidy. It is not. Inside those 4 layers, the roles split into a dozen specific jobs, and nearly every one of them has been reshaped in the last 2 decades. Start at the back. The goalkeeper is the only player allowed to use their hands inside their own box, and that single rule makes the position fundamentally different from every other one on the pitch. Stand between 2 posts roughly 8 yards apart, keep the ball out. Simple description. Except the modern goalkeeper barely resembles the one from a generation ago. Keepers used to live on their line. Wait, react, save. That was the whole job. Then a wave of modern keepers began stepping miles off their line, acting almost like an extra defender who happened to wear gloves. People started calling this the sweeper keeper, a goalkeeper who patrols the space behind the back line like an outfield player. This kind of keeper does not just stop shots, they start attacks, receiving the ball under pressure and playing it forward like a midfielder would. Before this shift, the goalkeeper was the last man. Now, in most elite teams, the goalkeeper is effectively the first player in possession. Directly ahead of the goalkeepers sit the center backs, usually 2 of them in most modern formations. Their job is straightforward on paper: stop the other team from scoring, win headers, time tackles, read the game several passes ahead, and organize the players in front of them. Here is the part that surprises people new to the sport. The very best center backs in history are not remembered for the volume of tackles they make. They are remembered for how rarely they need to make one at all. Elite defending is about being in the right place before the danger arrives, not reacting heroically once it has. A defender who reads the game well enough can make an entire match look quiet, almost uneventful, and in this position, that kind of boredom is the highest compliment available. On either side of the center backs sit the fullbacks, left and right. No position on the pitch has been reinvented more dramatically over the past 3 decades. Fullbacks used to be the most unglamorous job in the team. Stay wide, defend your side, only join the attack when absolutely necessary. Nobody bought a ticket specifically to watch a left back. Then a generation of coaches, most notably at Barcelona and later Manchester City, began turning fullbacks into genuine attacking weapons. Instead of simply running the line, some fullbacks started drifting inside into midfield, effectively becoming an extra central player whenever their team had the ball. This shift completely rewrote the job description. A modern fullback can cover more distance in a single match than almost anyone else on the pitch, sometimes well over 10 kilometers. They defend, they overlap, they cross, they create chances. A role that once asked for very little technical skill now demands some of the most physically demanding output in the entire sport. Now into midfield, where the structure gets genuinely interesting. The deepest midfielder is usually called the defensive midfielder, or the number 6, sometimes the holding midfielder. This might be the single most undervalued position on the entire pitch by casual fans. The number 6 sits just in front of the back line and controls the space between defense and midfield. They intercept passes before they become dangerous, break up attacks before they develop, and recycle possession when nobody else has an obvious option. They set the tempo for the whole team. When this player has an off day, the entire structure can collapse, like removing a load-bearing wall from a building. There is a well-known scouting observation about elite holding midfielders. Watch the match, and you barely notice them. Watch them specifically, and suddenly you understand the whole match. Invisible to a casual eye, foundational to everything happening around them. Above the six sit the central midfielders, often called the number eights. These are the engines of the team. They link defense to attack, carry the ball forward under pressure, and arrive late into the box to score the kind of goals nobody expected from them. They press, they track back, they create, they defend, often within the same 60 seconds. The number 8 role demands competence across almost every skill in the sport, which is exactly why it tends to produce some of football's most complete, adaptable players. One number 8 might be known for a perfectly weighted long pass and a long-range strike. Another might be known purely for covering more ground than two players combined. A third might control the rhythm of an entire match with a single touch. Same job title, completely different expressions of it. That range is part of what makes central midfield so fascinating to study. Just behind the forwards used to live the most romanticized role on the pitch, the number 10, the playmaker. The one who could see passes nobody else could. For decades, this was the most celebrated position in the sport. The players who operated in that pocket of space between the opposition's midfield and defense, turning a few square yards of grass into something close to art. But there is an uncomfortable truth here. The traditional number 10, in its purest form, is fading out of the modern game. Defensive systems today press so aggressively and compress space so effectively that a player who only creates and contributes nothing without the ball has become a luxury most teams cannot afford. The players who still wear the number 10 shirt at the elite level tend to combine the creative instincts of the old playmaker with the work rate of a midfield engine. The purely artistic number 10, floating between the lines waiting for a moment of inspiration with no defensive responsibility at all, is close to extinct at the highest level. Out on the flanks sit the wingers, left and right. Their job is to stretch the opposition defense horizontally, opening space centrally for everyone else. The traditional winger stayed glued to their natural touch line, right-footed player on the right, left-footed player on the left, running at the fullback and whipping crosses into the box. The modern game has largely flipped this. Most elite wingers today play on the flank opposite their stronger foot, a left-footed player stationed on the right, for example, allowing them to cut inside onto their favored foot and shoot rather than cross. This single shift, the inverted winger, has become one of the most significant tactical changes in the sport this century, turning wide players into genuine goal threats who score the kind of goals that used to belong exclusively to strikers. At the very top of the structure sits the striker, the number 9, the goal scorer, the name even the most casual fan tends to know. The job description is the simplest in football and the least forgiving: score goals. Everything else is secondary. The best strikers in history are not defined by how many chances they need. Some of the most efficient strikers in the modern game can go most of a match almost invisible, touch the ball a handful of times, and still decide the result with a single moment of precision. And then there is the role that broke the traditional system entirely, the false 9. A striker who is not really a striker at all. Instead of staying high and central where a number 9 is expected to operate, the false 9 drops deep into midfield, pulling the opposing center backs out of position and leaving a dangerous gap behind them that defenses often have no clear plan for. This tactical idea became famous when a legendary false 9 performance helped dismantle a major rival in emphatic fashion, simply because the space where the striker was supposed to be standing was empty, and nobody on the opposing side knew quite where to go instead. The false 9 is not just a position, it is closer to a philosophy. The idea that where you are not can sometimes be more dangerous than where you are. And that is the part nobody explains to new fans early enough. The formation graphic shown before kickoff, the neat rows of numbers, is only a starting point. The moment the whistle blows, everything becomes fluid. Fullbacks slide into midfield, wingers drift centrally, strikers drop so deep they momentarily look like midfielders themselves. The numbers describe where a player begins, never where they end up. Once you understand that, you stop watching 22 people chase a ball around a field. You start seeing the structure underneath it, the geometry, the invisible logic behind every run and every pass. That is the exact moment football stops looking like chaos and starts looking like one of the most intricately designed team sports ever built. You were always watching the same game. You just did not have the map yet. Now you do.